All right. How you doing, folks? Ron Raymond here from the Raymond Report, along with Ross Benjamin of RBWins.com. It is a Tuesday, November 17th. Hopefully everybody's having yourself a good start to your morning. As always, I'm joined here by my good friend and co-host, Ross Benjamin of RB Wins. Good morning, Ross.
Good morning, Ron. I hope you had a great weekend.
Yeah, you know what? It's like the Bill Murray movie, right? Groundhog Day. Pretty good weekend. 3-2 in my premium picks with college football. Walked the dog on Saturday. Walked the dog on Sunday. It's the same thing, right? It's the crazy times we live in. How was your weekend?
Well, I went combined in the NFL and college football. But actually, the NFL 3-3, college football 3-3. My saving grace, where I was able to make a slight profit in both college football and the NFL, is that I hit my 2 10-star top plays. I had Florida -17 against Arkansas on Saturday, and they lambasted them 55-17. And then on Sunday, I had the LA Rams -2 against the Seahawks. They knocked them off 23-16, I believe. So that saved me. It helped me. And then last night, I really bailed out to make the profit in the NFL by taking the under in the Bears and Vikings game. So that was a pretty easy winner.
That was a good weekend. Yeah, and that's what they call it, the Bell game on Monday night, right? But that was a good selection. I had the Bears. I lost on that one. Man, that offense is just
putrid.
I don't even know. I don't even have adjectives to say what it is.
They got no running game whatsoever. Their offensive line's terrible, and their wide receivers actually ain't bad. But, it's like these teams are cheating on these wide receivers and forcing them to go vertical and taking all the short stuff away. And the Bears' offensive line just can't hold up, Ron, to let patterns develop downfield, So they're a mess right now. 4 losses in a row. They go into the bye, back to the drawing board.
Yeah, and Zimmer had a good defensive plan.
He did.
He on those 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, he let the offense think they had those quick slants, and then he would bolt out those outside linebackers to take away the slants. It was a great game plan. And Nick Foles, I know we've talked about this many times. I'm not a big Nick Foles guy. To me, Nick Foles is a journeyman backup. He's just one of those guys where, and I know this situation. When you're a backup quarterback, there's no pressure on you. When you come in, it's mop up or just, after an injury. But when you're the starting guy, it's a completely different mindset the whole week, not just game day.
I agree with you, Ron. I agree with you. And I was a proponent of Nick Foles going into the year, but my mind, and by the way, Ron, he was carted off at the end of the game last night. I don't know if you saw that, but he took a vicious hit, landed on his back. And so who knows, Trubisky was in street clothes last night, and he had to bring in Tyler Bray, who had all of 4 NFL snaps in his career with 37 seconds to go and no timeouts.
Wow.
Good luck with that.
Hey, you know what? We're always better handicappers once the game's over, right?
Oh, absolutely.
After watching the Vikings last night and looking at that line, the line never moved yesterday. And the bookmakers knew that Bears Monday night 0-9, Viking, Kirk Cousin. Vikings were 0-4 against the spread, or 0-7 or something like that. Last 10 years as an away team. They just had some really good numbers going towards Chicago, but the bookmakers never bit, and they knew the good team was the Vikings that night. And sure enough, you got to credit the Vikings for going in there and getting the W. It's so hard to win. In the NFL.
Yes, and even especially on the road, right, Ron, in a division game. Yeah.
So college football, I went 1-2 in my premium picks, won my free pick. I had a great system. I melded that system to the over in the Vandy Kentucky game.
Yeah.
It was a great.
I was thinking of you when I saw that score.
Yeah, it really helped the 500 weekend there, 2-2 with the free pick. But 1-2, my 5-star best bet was Purdue. Purdue never. You know what? That quarterback for Purdue, to me, after watching that game, man, he just rocky, absolutely rocky, and it didn't look like he had any confidence. But to me, I look at Purdue. they don't have a lot of athletes at the skill position. Northwestern, good defense, very good defense, but the offense still suspect a bit to me. But very good defense and a good head coach, right, Fitzgerald?
Yeah, he's the most underrated head coach in college football, with all considered, Ron.
Yeah.
It's like you said, perfect analogy. Recruiting at Northwestern is similar to recruiting at Vanderbilt in the SEC. You have high academic standards there, which makes it a little more difficult to recruit. Yet he continues to win there, and hats off to him, Ron. He's doing a great job. Big matchup this weekend against Wisconsin, so we'll get to that. That'll be one of the games we're going to discuss on Thursday, Ron.
Looking forward to that. NFL went 3-2. My best bet was Seattle. Man, wish I had a mulligan on that one. But you know what? Having to do it again, I don't know. Probably not. But off the bye, it really, getting the Rams coming off a bye. But I really like Seattle's numbers. To me, it was all about the numbers that weekend. But good pick on you for taking the Rams. I had Tampa Bay. I had Buffalo.
Yeah, boy, oh boy. We were talking about that off air, the swing of emotion, giving up that Hail Mary, and then they knelt down before, rather than kick or try a 2-point conversion to prevent a possible block kick and a 2-point conversion the other way. And, you're swearing at the TV on that Hail Mary with 2 seconds ago, and all of a sudden the next second you're elated. Like you said, your wife was ready to send you to psychiatric.
Yeah. So the emotions in 2 minutes, tested my drinking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
I hear you, boy.
But I had Las Vegas also and Indy on Thursday night. So including last night, 4-3 on the weekend NFL. So hey, like I said, I've had worse weekends, but I'll take a 4-3 and 3-2 in the members area any time of the week. And folks, if you are interested in Ross Benjamin's college football picks or NFL picks this weekend or mine, you know where you can get them right here at atsstats.com, or you can get Ross's picks also at his website, rbwins.com.
Yeah, just be aware, folks. You can now get our daily picks, which you weren't able to do up until this past weekend. Meaning, if you don't want to make a long-term commitment, a 7-day, a 30-day, or an annual subscription, you could, and you like to dabble in once in a while, you could buy our daily free picks Monday through Sunday right there at atsstats.com.
Yeah, I'll just show it right here, Ross. So do you see this picture of the Buffalo Bulls?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Right here. So folks, if you're interested in Ross Benjamin or Chip Chirimbas or myself, selections on the week, you can go to picks. You can select one of our names, or go to a single pick, which will probably change to Capper's pick, and just select on that. And it'll take you to the next page where we always select our packages right here, but none of us have our picks. It's a quiet Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So Ross, what I did yesterday is Mondays are like a brainstorming day for me. I like to dabble into the numbers. And what I did is I looked, the ATS standings. I want to see what's come in so far this year. And so this column here is straight up. This column here is against the spread, and this column here is the over-under. So far this year, NFL favorites hitting at 65.7% straight up, 45.8 against the number, compared to underdogs, 33.5 straight up and 54.1. 45.8.
That's right.
And then 54.1 against the number. So initial thoughts on underdogs.
They've been hitting. I'd like to look at the last 3 weeks. I know you chart that as well. But yes, I think the underdogs, if I'm not mistaken, have done pretty well over the last few weeks. I'm not sure exactly what the record was on Sunday and Monday. Obviously, the Vikings covered last night. So yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for a good underdog, Ron, but look for those numbers to possibly start to level off a little bit, because I believe the year started with the favorites hitting a little bit in the NFL, and then it went the other way. It usually, like you said, Ron, I mean, you've been doing this a long time, charting this kind of stuff. and usually it levels off pretty good in
Oh,
the
absolutely.
NFL.
Absolutely. 53.7% of the overs that come in this year. And that's always in that 47 to 53 range. But you're right. Favorites did win this week.
And that's leveled off a little too, right, Ron? Remember we were
yeah.
getting a lot of overs early on.
Yeah, and the favorites did win this week. We'll get to the SBI in a second. Home teams on the year, Ross, straight up 52.4, 46.8 against the number. Home favorites are winning 65.1% of the games, but only covering 43.8%. That's a pretty big separation right there. Home underdogs, 30.9% of them winning straight up, but 50.9% covering the spread. Road teams are winning 47.5 of the games compared to 53.1 against the number. Road favorites winning 69% of the games. Wow, that's a high number when you think about it, right? But only covering 49%. A 20% swing right here from road favorites to road covering the spread. That's huge.
Yeah.
Road underdogs, 34.8 and 56.1. Now, Ross, when I was doing these numbers yesterday, I was ranking the percentage play. Rumor has it I'm a percentage player. So, and looking at,
I created a monster.
You did actually about 15 years ago. But look at this: home favorites, home underdogs, road favorites, road underdogs. Of those four categories, which one would you think would be the one that probably had the highest win percentage? Right?
Hey, without looking at the chart, I would say home underdogs, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But the public, they'll always fall in love with favorites.
Yes.
So you would think,
okay.
That's what I meant. So the public would always look at, if I was to pick what the public would be thinking all the time, are they thinking home favorites, home underdogs, road favorites, or road underdogs? What would be their first instinct? I'd always lean towards home favorites. Yeah. Home underdogs seconds, road favorites thirds, and road underdogs fourth. And look at the percentage play of all of those four. 56.1% for road underdogs, 49% for road favorites, underdogs 50.9, so almost even with the road favorites, and 43.8% of home favorites. So what I'm getting at here is
the sports books are doing pretty good.
Yeah, exactly, right? But the way I'm thinking is that the public, when they're doing their picks, they're gonna always tend to they like safe, right? Public, and when I mean public, I mean the casual bettor. The casual bettor likes a safe bet. There is no such thing as a safe bet anymore in sports betting. High risk, high rewards; low risk, no rewards. That's one word I always say.
If there was such thing as safe bets, it would be too easy. You know what I mean? Even if you went 50, if safe bets went 53.7%, you're going to make money. It's not that easy.
No, and if you want safe,
and then how do you really classify? How do you define a safe bet? Everybody has their own mindset when it comes to that.
Well, which brings us to our second point. Good, good minds think alike. So favorites and underdogs. Favorites of Pick'em to -3. We'll just use the spread. 43.7% of covering the spread. Favorites of 3.5 to 6.5 are covering 44.6% of the time this year. 7 to 9.5 are covering 51.7. 10 points or more favorites, 45.4. Now let's look at the other side of the coin. Underdogs. And we said it, right? It's an underdog season thus far, with the only winning week this week in week, was it 10, going to the favorites. So pick them to +3 underdogs, 56.2, which is a pretty good percentage play right here on those underdogs, right? +3.5 to 6.5, 55.3. +7 to 9.5 underdog, 48.2. And +10 or more, 54.5, which is, the opposite of this. Early thoughts there.
Yeah, again, I brought this up a while back, Ron. If you could pick the straight up winner when there's a line of 5 or less in the NFL, you cover 81.2% of the time. So, that was a few weeks back. If you want me to take a second here while you're entertain the folks, okay, I can look that up if you'd like.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed too with totals, and where's the value in totals, right? So I noticed that favorites of 3.5 to 6.5 the over is hitting at 61%. So whenever you see a line and then you see a favorite at 3.5 to 6.5, 61.1% is a pretty good percentage play to the over. And when you dig deeper into that, it's home favorites. Actually, home favorites of 3.5 to 6.5. They've covered the over 22, 14, and 1. So, folks, if you see a home favorite of 3.5 to 6.5 this season, and you've probably bet the over, you've done well, hitting 61%.
Yeah, look at the favorites of 10 or more, 8 and 3 to the under. So that sort of surprises me off the top of my head, because usually when you have a favorite of 10 or more, you think the favorite's going to score a lot of points. But what's the ATS record here on the favorites of 10 or more? 5 and 6 against the spread. So, hey, some interesting numbers there. I mean, again, I could tell you off the top of my head that home underdogs of 10 or greater this year have gone 5-0-1 against the spread. And we have another one coming up this week with Jacksonville plus 10 against Pittsburgh.
So, sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah. Home underdogs of 10 or greater this year in the NFL have gone 5-0-1 against the spread. And they are, and there's another situation this week right now, as we speak. Jacksonville is a 10-point home underdog against Pittsburgh. So something to take a look at. And that falls under the category of making uncomfortable bets, right? Around the Dallas plus the points at home against Pittsburgh, the New York Giants plus the points at home against Tampa Bay, both heavy underdogs. Dallas was a 14-point underdog. I believe the Giants were somewhere in that area, and both lost by less than a field goal. So, and had a chance to win the game outright. So just something to keep an eye on. In the NFL, if you've played NFL home underdogs of 10 or greater since 1980, you've done awfully well. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. And then I think we had another stat on that this year of 10 points or more road underdogs, the under 1 and 6. I remember I had a stat to the under, and we'll get to that in a few seconds. But and Jacksonville, hey, who would have thought they would have went to Green Bay this weekend and give them a dogfight right there, right?
They can handle, yep. So, I mean, I mentioned those other situations, same thing. And then, when you got to look even deeper, who they played before they got into that. I'm talking about the road favorite of 10 or more, who they played before those games. Like, for example, against Dallas, when they were a road favorite of -14, they had just come off games against Baltimore and Tennessee. So in the Giants, when they came off, Tampa Bay was coming off a win against an impressive win at home against Green Bay.
Yeah.
And then they're a 14-point home underdog or favorite away favorite against the Giants. So just something to keep in mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Classic letdown spot right there. Yeah. But Tampa Bay rebounded nicely this weekend.
Yeah.
And Tom,
much to my chagrin.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, you had Tampa Bay, didn't you?
Yeah, I had Tampa Bay. I thought it would be a great bounce back game for Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and especially that defense. That defense. They've been before the Green Bay game. They were put on a pedestal like one of the best defenses in the league, right?
Yeah.
But they come down to earth the last couple of weeks. But hey, Carolina still were able to move the ball on them. So I don't know where that defense is mentally right now.
Yeah.
Looking at some of these other numbers here, Ross, we'll go to the road favorites of Pick'em, 55%, 54 on road favorites here of 7 to 9.5. And I wanted to look, there was something else. Okay, let's go to the totals. When totals are 37 to 41, 6 and 2 to the over. Look at this, home totals of 41.5 to 44, 5 and 11 against the number. And when I see that, I think of defense, right? And which type of defense has a 41? Probably those Chicago wins at the beginning.
Yeah. That's sort of surprising, but I think that's more in that area. That's more coincidental than anything else, Ron.
So when I mentioned these totals, Ross, 41.5 to 44, is there any teams that you would come to mind would always be in that ballpark of totals?
I don't know about always, but I mean, you mentioned one of them, the Bears. And who else? I mean, who's anemic offensively right now? That's a
Rams.
tough one. Yeah, but the Rams are a good defense, but they're not going to fall in that category too often. I mean, we're talking about 17 times. You had a total of 41 and a half to 44 just 17 times in the first 10 weeks of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just 1.7 times per week. So that's a tough answer for me right off the top of my head, Ron.
No problem. Total 44 and a half to 47. You can see right here, 53% against the spread, 50%. It's always amazing. Like, see this right in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Anything like, Seinfeld, even Steven right here, 50%. Look at these two right in the middle, 50%. And then once you get outside the boundaries of the middle, 47 and a half to 51, then we're starting to see a bit more of the overs, 22 and 18, 23, 17 and 1 for the home teams. But look at this. Total teams total of 51 and a half to 54, 7 and 12 straight up, 4 and 14 and 1 against the number.
Yeah, and 13 and 5 and 1 to the over. Wow.
Yeah.
So those high totals haven't really scared anybody away.
Yeah. So that's what I did yesterday, Ross. Crashed crunching numbers Monday.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. We should get a Crispy Crunch sponsoring that commercial or something, right?
And I'm updating my database, so
yeah,
which is a monumental task.
Oh God, that's like a 12-hour job in itself.
Not that bad.
No?
A couple hours. Yeah, it's a couple hours. It's a tedious task, but once it's done, it's very gratifying. In the ensuing next 4 days, because you have that info at your fingertips.
So Ross, we talked about the totals going over this weekend. The first time this season where the over has cashed in more than the under. We had 9 and 5 to the over this week. Looking at
the under.
I'm looking at the ATS. Sorry, ATS. Yeah. The favorites. The favorites went 9 and 5 this week, covering the spread. And we talked about it. Remember, we talked about the Bear Americans and neutral. I said eventually the favorites, and that's where I went in this weekend, picking more favorites. Picking Tampa Bay, Las Vegas. Who else did I have the favorites? I think it was India favorite.
They ended up closing as a 1-point favorite.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I was looking at when, and when I consider the market, when I do my selections, it's an indicator. It's not a final factor of me making my selections.
Well, look at those prior weeks too, around week 5 through week 9. I mean, it was just a matter of time before the favorites had a big week. I mean, look, just look at those numbers. I mean, favoring the underdogs the previous 5 weeks.
Yeah. No, the 42.9, 28.6. So it was just a matter of time before. Yeah. And that's why, I was leaning more towards favorites on some of my selections, especially my contest picks, what I do with the contests I'm in. All right, let's look at college football right now. Let's see how college football has done so far this season. Take it away this week here. So week 11, 62.8 of the favorites again.
Wow.
Man, yeah, this is a big week for favorites in college football and the NFL. 62.8 and 34.9% of the underdogs only covered this week. And we've been in a pretty much underdog and neutral market so far this season. And look at the over-under still, nothing out of, except for week 6 here when 63.3% of the overs came in. So very balanced when it comes to the over-unders.
Yeah, especially in college football, you're going to get a lot of Big 12 conference games, for example, in the 60s and 70s. A couple of American Athletic Association teams like Central Florida and SMU, where the totals are going to be real high. So, yeah, I mean, you want the neutral market, right, Ron, that we're seeing in college football.
So speaking of college football, Ross, let's take a look at the early line moves, courtesy of Pinnacle Sports. That's where we get our lines from. And looking at some of the numbers here, opened up at 30. Now Buffalo's at 31. Bowling Green, not a good team, right?
No, they're between them and Akron. They may be the 2 worst teams in the FBS level.
Minus 25 opened up for Kent State. It's at 26.5. So already a 1.5 point swing going to the Golden Flashes.
Just a couple notes here, if I can, Ron.
Yeah, sure.
Since the beginning of last season, Akron is 0-14 straight up. So they haven't won a game since 2018, and they went 2-12 against the spread during that time. However, they did cover last week against Ohio and actually outplayed Ohio, just plagued by turnovers. They outgained them by over 100 yards. But they're 0-10 straight up in ATS. If they're an underdog of 26 or less, you got 26.5. I think you could find a 26 or less. And again, the turnover differential, Akron -5 in their first two games, while Kent State is +2. In the Buffalo game, I got a nice angle here. Again, I'm not going to use either one of those games, but if you're into algorithms, which I know Ron is, anytime you have a double-digit away favorite coming off back-to-back straight-up wins by 17 or greater, and they're facing an opponent coming off back-to-back losses by 21 or greater, those away favorites have gone 17-2 against the spread since 2008. So again, Buffalo's coming off a 49-30 win over Northern Illinois, a 42-10 win over Miami, while Bowling Green, a 38-3 loss to Toledo and a 62-24 loss to Kent State last week. And also Buffalo 3-0 straight up in ATS in the last 3 years against Bowling Green, and they won those games by an average of 27.8 points per contest.
Wow, 17-2, and like we just said, people, the casual bettor, they want safe, right? And I don't know if laying 31 is safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's never safe to lay that many points. I'm not a proponent of that. I did use Cincinnati as a free play on Friday night, which I won, but that was a whole different set of circumstances. When you get a team like Cincinnati who's coming off 3 straight wins by 28 points or more against good opponents, and they sink in the ratings or the rankings and go from number 6 to number 7, they were going to have a chip on their shoulder, so they needed style points, and they certainly got them.
Yeah, and just to note, Ross, there's some people posting some negative stuff in the chat, and one thing that me and Ross talked about, that we want to keep the show positive, and if people are going to post negative stuff in the chat, it's just going to get removed. So just a heads up for people who are posting, because we do this for free here, and we have a good time, and the last thing we want to see is we suck, and we don't need that, right? And the people in the chat, we appreciate you guys chatting, but if you're
it's amazing that the same guys chime in and say you suck, but they keep watching.
Yeah. So anyways, I didn't want to
draw a conclusion there. You know what I mean?
I don't want to bring the show down, but it's just I'm just giving a heads up to people in the chat room that if you post negative stuff, it'll be removed, and you'll be removed from the channel. So just a heads up. Appalachian State against Coastal Carolina. -5.5, and it's down to 4. So early money coming in on Appalachian State. Interesting. Appalachian State's offense this year is not the same as it been the last couple of years, though.
Yeah, but they're still a dangerous team with a winning tradition. This line jumped out at me because it opened at 5.5, and now it's down to 4. Right? Is that what you have here?
Yeah.
What's the 1.5, Ron?
That just tells you what the line swing has been.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So you're seeing some early money go to App State. I'm not sure. I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. Sharp money might have went that way, or because of App State's brand name compared to Coastal Carolina. I think it's a little bit of both.
Temple opened up a 4-point home underdog. Now it's 3.5, so a bit of a hook move there. Clemson Tigers 34. Now it's at 35 against Florida State. When
was the last time? If you would have told me a few years back that we would be talking about Florida State being a 35-point home underdog, boy, is that program really sunk to low depths.
Yeah, that would never happen under like say a Bobby Bowden or even a Jumbo Fisher, right? Jumbo Fisher, that would never happen. Arkansas State 5.5 to 6.5, so money coming in on the Red Wolves. San Diego State, the Aztecs. It went from +1, it's now -1. So we got a little bit of a flip here. The Aztecs. Remember watching them a few weeks ago against San Jose State. That was a good game. That unfortunately lost, but the Aztecs. Is it Brody Hoax there now? or
Yes, he is.
yeah,
Yes.
Bodie.
Took over for Rocky Long. Yeah.
Okay. Alabama, they had a bye this week, or the COVID bye, I call it. Now they're a 31-point favorite against Kentucky. I had the over in that game, Ross. I had a great angle.
That was a great call because, with Kentucky, good defense, no offense, and Vanderbilt, not exactly an offensive juggernaut, and really good call there.
Yeah, I had a system that any home team of 10 or more favorite, and they're coming off a game where they scored 3 points or less. The over was like 38-7 or something like that, right? Or 31-8. And it was a nice cashing ticket right there. I was surprised that Vandy was able to put some points on them.
Yeah, I mean, because Kentucky, if they've done anything well this year, it's been, their defense has been pretty stout. Stoops is a defensive guru, their head coach. So, that was really surprising to me that Vandy was able to score like they did and rack up the yards they did.
Georgia State opened up at 3, and it's at 3.5 against South Alabama, the Jaguars. Missouri -3, and that's at 5.5, so 2.5 point. And Muschamp didn't get axed this week.
I did see that. It's possible. I mean, I know they got blown out a couple weeks ago, 48-3 at Texas A&M, or was at home against Texas A&M. A bad loss. I'm not sure, Ron. That's a good question, because that's something that we should consider whenever there's a head coaching change.
Yeah, Will Muschamp, after Gamecocks start 2-5, South fires Will Muschamp. Yeah, so he is gone. I thought I saw that this week. Yep. He just got there too a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is,
former defensive coordinator at the University of Florida, perfect example, Ron, of a guy who was a really good coordinator, but didn't translate into a really good head coach.
Yeah. And he's, anytime, it's like the Brian Trotzy rule, I always say, right? Once you're a great assistant, it's really hard to make that transition to a head coach, right?
Yeah.
It's just, there's not a lot of guys. Look at Patricia in the NFL.
Yep.
Man, he was, sometimes it's be careful what you wish for in life, because
what's surprising about Patricia is the fact that he was a defensive, according to all the New England players, a defensive genius. Not only hasn't he been a good head coach in Detroit, but his defenses have been among the worst in his tenure there.
Wow. He's got the win this weekend against a Washington team. They gave up a big lead, but you got to wonder if his time is limited in Detroit. Cleveland -1-3 against the Eagles. Man, that's I don't know if you consider it a big jump.
Yeah, it's a big jump by NFL standards, especially early in the week. It's not like a lot of the general public is making early bets, so that leads me to believe that's a money generated move. And, based on what we saw last week, the Eagles losing to the Giants, there's talent there on that Philadelphia team, but there's something missing, Ron. The chemistry doesn't seem to be there. Carson Wentz, again, making critical mistakes. Cleveland, coming off that win, that lackluster win against Houston. The last 2 games without Odell Beckham, a 16-6 loss to the Raiders at home, and a 10-7 win against Houston, who's now like 2-7 on the season. So, yeah, Cleveland 6-3, and I've been a proponent of them from early on, but right now they need to show me a little more before I take them more seriously.
Yeah, you've been on them and Miami. Who else did you like at the beginning of the year? There was
Arizona.
Arizona. That's right.
Yeah.
So you're looking good, buddy.
I mean, those are the teams that I took as sleepers, teams to go over the regular season win total. So, yeah, I mean, Miami 6-3 right now. I don't know if you looked, Ron, they've won 5 in a row and covered 5 in a row. I believe in 4 of those 5 wins, they've had less than 300 yards of total offense. So this whole big hoopla about Tua being there, I mean, I think you got to give a lot of credit to their defense and special teams are a major component in them going on this current win streak.
Hey, I've been saying since 3 weeks now that the Dolphins could win the AFC East, and they're just an opportunistic team. and they are the prize example of a team. You don't just rely on the offense to carry, or Chicago Bears defense to carry your team. Like, they play football. If they can get a little bit better on offense or more consistent, this is a very good football team.
It's a well-disciplined football team, led by a well-disciplined and very good young head coach in Brian Flores. You know me, Ron, I've been a fan of Flores since last year when he took over Miami. And the big thing that really jumped out at me last year is when they got off to that 0-7 start and they were getting crushed in every game, yet his players didn't give up on him. And they ended up going 5-4 down the stretch, and it's carried over to this year.
Yep. No, they and I like to look at their schedule to see who they're playing in the next few weeks, because it'd be interesting to see if they got a real shot at winning that division.
Yeah.
Well, I know they got Buffalo in the last week in Buffalo.
I mean, they got a winnable game this week against Denver on the road. So we'll see. I mean, the only thing that I have, like last week, they had 280 yards of total offense and somehow scored 29 points. The game before, I believe they played the Rams. They won that game. They were outgained 471 to 145. I mean, that's fine and dandy. They're opportunistic, Ron. And they've won 5 in a row, and give them credit. I just don't know if without any improvement on the offensive side of the ball, if you could sustain that, because sooner or later, your defense is not going to have a good game. Sooner or later, you're not going to win a game. You're not going to win the turnover battle or return a fumble for a touchdown or a punt return. So we'll see. I mean, I don't mean to throw negative vibes at Miami, because, I liked them early on, but I'd like to see more from them offensively, Ron.
Yeah, no, I said they're opportunistic, and you play them, you don't make a mistake, because you can pay for it. Just ask Arizona and the Chargers, right?
Yep.
Green Bay, actually Pittsburgh -9. Now it's up to 10. You talked about the stat earlier. Plus was it plus 10
plus 10 home underdogs of 10 or greater. Done awfully well over the course of time in the NFL as far as ATS betting goes. And this year, a home underdogs of 10 or greater have gone 5-0-1 against the spread.
You get into that uncomfortable feeling mode, right?
That's a real 10. Uncomfortable. Well, Pittsburgh, I mean, you were in an uncomfortable mode when Pittsburgh went to Dallas a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And they were -14, so.
Well, it's that bend don't break, but having been on teams and coach teams that, winning streaks, those winning streak weigh on you after, like, say, the 7th, 8th game, because that's all everybody talks about.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a matter of winning a game straight up. As we saw, good teams find ways to win, like Pittsburgh in that Dallas game. They were losing for a lot of that game before coming back and winning by, I believe, 2 points. Tampa Bay at the Giants on that Monday night matchup, where you had that large point spread, and Tampa Bay rallies to win by a field goal or something like that. So the bottom line is the value. And when you look at two teams, Pittsburgh, if they played Jacksonville, is going to probably win 99 out of 100 games with these current rosters. But it's not always about who the better team is. It's about a specific spot and what that team is coming off of. And Jacksonville, for example, like Ron alluded to, they showed a little promise. They went into Green Bay last week and gave the Packers all they can handle. So a lot to be considered. Anybody could say that Pittsburgh's a better team than Jacksonville. You're not a genius. That doesn't mean it's an automatic cover, though.
No, and the thing that really will get to them is that reporters and people, instead of talking about winning the Super Bowl, they're just going to talk about the streak. And that, if you're a head coach with Tomlinson is a really good head coach, he'll steer that conversation away from the streak to winning a Super Bowl, hopefully, because you don't want your focus to be the streak. You want it to be a team that goes into the next game and on their way to winning a Super Bowl, right?
Yep, exactly.
So, Indianapolis, the 3-point open to 3. Now it's a -2 against the Packers. So a bit of early money coming in on the Packers. This Packer team,
an intriguing matchup, Ron.
Yeah, that's a really good one here. And are you surprised Indy's favorite?
No, not really, because Green Bay's strength of schedule hasn't exactly knocked your socks off. So I don't know if they're as good a team as the record indicates, where Indianapolis might be a little better team than that 6-3 record indicates. Look, they win in the Tennessee and they win the game by 17 points on that Thursday night contest last week. So this is a good, and not only are they a decent team, I mean, Indianapolis has got a very good defense, Ron, an extremely good offensive line, and the combination thereof usually makes a team very competitive on a week-to-week basis.
I'm a bit surprised. I thought Green Bay would probably be like a -1 here, or
Yeah.
at the very least a pick 'em. But hey, who would have gave Chicago an underdog role last night against Minneapolis,
Well, I
Minnesota?
mean, other than Aaron Rodgers over Phillip Rivers, I mean, if you look at, I guess you could say Green Bay's running backs are better, but Indianapolis's defense is decisively better. And again, the best player on the field, other than Aaron Rodgers, is Devontae Adams, who continues to put up huge numbers, Ron. And it's mind-boggling because it's not like they have these other receivers on the depth chart don't really have a stellar resume.
Looking at tonight's game, Ross, we got Buffalo taking on the Bowling Green Falcons. Now, a line going up at 31 now, the over-under at 57.5. The computer pick, going to go with the Bulls here, 39.4, 22.8. The over-under at 62.2, so it does like it to go over the total. The Bulls 2-0 in the season, straight up and against the number, where the Falcons are 0-2, straight up and against the number. A 50% chance of winning the game for Buffalo compared to only 16% for the Falcons. And if you look down here, Ross, in the free rain report, we give the market conditions here. Folks, if you do want the free rain report, go to our website. And this is a nice little feature that I like, that if you want to look at the against the spread on the season, you just see the year to date for home teams, home favorites. And if you want to compare the last 30 days, it's a nice little tool to have. And it tells you where, the last 30 days have occurred. And then you can analyze it and make an assumption or a prediction on where you think the next point spread would be when you're doing your handicapping. Tonight's game, looking at Bowling Green coming off a 62-24 loss to Kent State, where Buffalo, a big win over Miami, Ohio, 42-10. And now when Buffalo goes into Bowling Green, they are 5-2 straight up, but only 2-5 against the number, 2-4-1 to the under. Home dogs on 6 days rest, Ross, 19-50 straight up, 30-38-2 against the spread, where road favorites are 54-20 straight up, 42-31-1 against the number, according to the rain report. I do have a system here, some trends here, Ross, on the over. And you know what? Like you said, 17-2 on your system. I know that was against the spread for Buffalo.
Yes.
But I do have some numbers here pointing to the let me see here. When Buffalo's a road team on 6 days rest, coming off a home win as a favorite, 12-3 for the Bulls. I always want to say Bills. And the over for Bowling Green as a home team when they're on 6 days rest and they're coming off a 2-game losing streak, 10-2 to the over. So a couple of indicators here when you're looking at the rain report. Any thoughts on tonight's game here, Ross?
Yeah, I had that system. It's just a matter if Buffalo wants to play and they're in the mood to play and they're in the right mental state, they're going to win big here. But it's a lot of points to lay. And you got to, again, folks, with these two games tonight, and I know we're going to talk about the other game next, but these two games tonight, if you took those games and put them on the Saturday board and with 30 or 40 other games, would you really even give these games a second look? Or are you just considering it because these are the only two games on the board? When that happens, there's nothing wrong with taking a pass sometime. Sometimes the best pick is no pick at all.
Yeah, or turn on Netflix and watch the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Hey, as much as we're sports handicappers, I don't, we do this.
We're not action junkies, though.
Yeah,
that's the difference,
Yeah.
So,
all right, Akron taking on Kent State. 20 26.5 is the number on the Golden Flashes, the over-under at 58.5. The forecast, Ross, going to go with Kent State here, 42.9 to 18.4, the over-under at 61. So another high-scoring total for the computer. 2-0 straight up for Kent State, but only 1-1 against the number. And Akron 0-2 and 1-1 against the number. I don't know. I don't remember when Akron won a lost game.
They haven't won since 2018. I alluded to that before. Akron, since the start of last year, is 0-14 straight up and 2-12 against the spread.
Wow. 19.1% chance of winning and 58.3% for Kent State chance of winning tonight. The number, like the Raymond Report, what we do is if we had a line on this game, it'd be -21. And you can see it's a bit overvalued at 26.5. And that's because, like you said, a team that hasn't put a lot of wins throughout the years. And we had a 29.5. So again, believe it or not, undervalued at plus 26.5. Looking at some of the other numbers here, Akron, when they're hosting or when they go to Kent State, they're only Kent State is 5-7 straight up, 6-6 against the number, 5-4-3. So very balanced when it comes to that. And a lot of numbers pointing towards the under here this evening. Actually, look at this. When any NC college football teams, a home team the last 5 years on 6 days rest in November, and they're coming off a 28 or between a 28 and 31 point win, and that win was over the total, 3-7 to the under in their next game. So maybe the under is worth a shot here tonight between Kent State and Akron.
Yeah, I got no opinion other than the fact that it'd be a cold day in hell before I take Akron. That's for sure.
That's funny. All right. So Ross, today we just glanced over some of the numbers. Any thoughts on the upcoming week on any early looks that you're looking at in college football or NFL?
Right now, just a little bit too early for that. We do have a great Thursday night matchup in the NFL, just to bring the folks up to speed. You can get my picks at ATSStats.com, not only weekly, monthly, and annual subscriptions, but daily now. My NFL, since the first Monday night of the season, pretty good, around 32-21 against the spread. That's good for 60%. College football, 3 to 5 picks on Saturday, 3 to 5 picks on Sunday. In the NFL, most likely we'll have a pick in the NFL on Thursday. Full schedule ahead, 2 games tonight and 3 games on Wednesday in the MAC. And then the Thursday night schedule, pretty good for a Thursday night. And Friday, I think we got 4 or 5 games on the board too, Ron. So a little too early for me to specify one particular matchup.
Yep.
I'm going to be delving into that this afternoon. I could have a better take on that for you tomorrow.
No problem. Hey, NBA too, right? We got NBA this week. What do you think of all these rumors of trades and Harden to the Nets? And that's pretty exciting, eh?
Yeah, it's just a matter of I like to have some definitive answers as to when the NBA and NHL season starting. Is it going to be a shortened season? I know the NBA are talking 72 games, and I saw a proposal yesterday in the NHL where they were going to realign the divisions because of the problems at the border with this COVID-19, and all 7 Canadian teams are going to be in the same division. And then, you're going to have 2 other divisions that encompass all the American teams. So looking forward to some definitive answers there, Ron.
Yeah, I agree. I as much as I love that idea of all Canadian division, it will get really not boring, but it will get old quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like facing Montreal 3-4 times and like in a week or two. Not interested in that. We want to see the best players, but these are the times we live in. We get it.
Yeah.
The NBA, I think Christmas is the day they want to start, or December 22nd. Hopefully that and they're talking about putting the March or May Madness in Indiana, I think.
Well, that was Rick Pitino's idea. I mean, he just threw it out there. Yeah, he said rather than jeopardize the whole season, where right now, Ron, we're looking at a surge in COVID-19 cases in the States. I don't know how it is in Canada.
Yeah, same
and
here.
His issue is going to be, we try to force things and then we get a mess on our hands. Why not wait until this surge dies down a little, start the season in January, and then, have what's wrong with having May Madness, at the end of the day. So, but the NCAA, Ron, isn't like the NBA and the NFL. They're a bunch of bureaucrats with big egos, and they always don't look out for the betterment of the kids. It's always about, well, how much money is this going to make us or lose us, kind of thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's true. And I heard something like they lost like 400 million last year not having the March Madness.
Sure.
So hey, it's I get, All right. So Ruby Tuesday in the books for November 17th. Again, folks, if you're interested in my selections or membership here at atsstats.com, you saw the numbers that are here, some of the features that we bring on the show that you can get access to by visiting our website. And Ross Benjamin will have his college football picks and NFL picks along with myself and Chip Chirimbas. We'll get Chip on the video shortly, especially Ruby Tuesday. He's Ross Benjamin. I'm Ron Raymond. This was the Raymond Report sports betting podcast for Tuesday, November 17th. As always, folks, shop for value, play those percentages. We'll see you back shortly with another Raymond Report.